Here we have an assessment standard question based on the last teaching PowerPoint, where we were looking at physical and chemical secretions. The diagram represents a section of human skin punctured by a splinter of wood. You have to describe one way in which these epithelial cells defend the body against pathogens. And our correct answer: the epithelial cells form a barrier, or they are closely packed together. There are some alternatives highlighted there that are acceptable. There's also some alternatives that are not acceptable. From page 26 of our student guide, we are going to be focusing in this PowerPoint on the inflammatory response. By the end of this PowerPoint, you need to be able to name the cells that produce histamine and describe the action of histamine as part of the inflammatory response. We have an image here that is hyperlinked to a video. The video does go into a lot more detail than is required for us at this moment in our higher human course, but it is a good video to demonstrate the action of histamine, which is the key learning area we're about to move on to. So when you click on the image and watch the video, I would be asking that you are just focusing on the action of histamine. All the other information we can kind of ignore at this point. Please remember to come back to the presentation once you've finished watching the video. When the body suffers a physical injury, which is shown on the image in front of you, such as a cut or an invasion by a microorganism, it responds with what we call a localized defense mechanism called the inflammatory response. And the inflammatory response is isolated to the affected site. Mast cells are present in connective tissue throughout the body. They are closely related to white blood cells. Mast cells possess many granules containing histamine. Histamine is a chemical that causes blood vessels to dilate, which means they get wider, and it also causes capillaries to become more permeable. Following an injury, mast cells become activated and release large quantities of histamine. This results in blood vessels in the injured area undergoing vasodilation and capillaries becoming swollen with blood. Following an injury, with the mast cells becoming activated and releasing large quantities of histamine, we see that the blood vessels in the injured area undergo vasodilation and the capillaries are becoming swollen with blood. The additional blood supply makes the injured area red and inflamed. It swells up because the stretched capillary walls become more permeable and leak fluid into neighbouring tissues. Here we have an assessment standard question based on the inflammatory response. We've got a number of questions here, some pertaining to our previous lesson on physical and chemical defences, and then part B linked with today's PowerPoint. So you've been asked to name the type of cell which forms a physical barrier in the skin. For part 2, in addition to forming a physical barrier, state another way in which these cells resist infection. And then part B is linked to today's learning. Mast cells initiate the inflammatory response. Name the chemical which they release and explain how it increases the supply of fluid into the infected tissue. I'll let you gather your thoughts and then I'll share with you the answers. The type of cell which forms a physical barrier is an epithelial cell. In addition to forming a physical barrier, they can also produce secretions or chemicals or specific names of chemicals such as mucus, sweat, stomach acid, tears or sebum. The chemical that's produced by mast cells is histamine, and the explanation as to how it increases the supply of fluid into the infected tissue is that it causes vasodilation or increases capillary permeability. That's us at the end of this Teaching and Learning PowerPoint. As always, you are asked to reflect upon your own learning against the 2 learning intentions highlighted. If there's anything you're unsure of, then you go back to the relevant part of the PowerPoint and revisit it.